The beauty of silence, where words end, the soul speaks. The noise we live in. There are days when the world feels unbearably loud. Not only the streets, or the cars, or the endless conversations, but the noise inside. That restless hum beneath the skin. That constant pressure to move, to answer, to prove, to become. It begins the moment we open our eyes. The glow of the screen greets us before the morning light does. Messages, notifications, updates. The world is already speaking before our hearts even awaken. And so, without meaning to, we step into the current. Scrolling, reacting, consuming, running. The hours pass, the noise grows. And somewhere, between the rush and the repetition, we lose something small, something sacred. We call it peace. But perhaps it's something even deeper. The quiet space where we once met ourselves. You see, noise has many shapes. Sometimes, it's made of sound, voices, traffic, music too loud to feel. But sometimes, noise is invisible. It's made of thoughts that never rest, of comparisons that never end, of worries that keep whispering when the night is supposed to be still. We try to silence it with more sound, more distractions, more plans, more movement. We fill every gap, every pause, every quiet corner of our day. Because silence feels strange now, uncomfortable, even frightening. It's as if we no longer remember how to be with ourselves. Without a screen, without a noise, without a role to play. And yet, somewhere deep inside, our souls are still longing for that pause. They are calling out through the static, whispering, "Please, stop, just for a moment." We live in an age that celebrates speed. Everything faster, smarter, louder. Even our emotions are expected to be efficient. We heal quickly. We move on quickly. We post about our joy and hide our sorrow. Because silence and stillness don't fit in the timeline. But what if, just for a moment, we dared to stop running? What if we allowed ourselves to hear what the noise has been hiding all along? Beneath the chaos of our days, there's a quiet rhythm still pulsing, like a heartbeat that never left. It's the sound of our true self, waiting to be heard again. There's a story behind every noise we chase, a reason we fill our lives so completely. Maybe it's fear, fear of emptiness, fear of being forgotten, fear of facing the truth of what we really feel. Because silence has a way of revealing things. It takes off the masks. And in the softest, most gentle way, it tells us what we've been avoiding. But we've learned to survive in the volume. We've made our homes in the chaos. And now, even when peace knocks, we barely hear it. We mistake it for loneliness. We confuse stillness with absence. And we wonder why joy feels so far away. Sometimes, I think about how simple things used to be. The sound of rain against the window. The way the air smelled after a storm. The laughter that didn't need to be shared online to be real. Back then, silence was part of life. It wasn't something to escape from. It was something to return to. But today, we chase stimulation like it's oxygen. We scroll not to learn, but to forget. We fill our days not with meaning, but with noise that numbs us. And somewhere in that endless hum, we forget the gentle art of listening. To others, to life, and to ourselves. Have you noticed how quiet the world becomes right before the sun rises? That thin line between night and day. When everything holds its breath. In that silence, something sacred stirs. It's as if creation itself is whispering. This is where it all begins again. Maybe that's why silence scares us. Because deep down, it feels like a beginning. And beginnings often mean change. But without silence, how can we hear truth? How can we feel love, not the kind that shouts, but the one that simply is? How can we find peace if we never make space for it to enter? We are so used to doing that we've forgotten how to be. We've built a world where stillness is a luxury, when in truth, it's our very nature. There's a beauty in silence that words cannot touch. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't try to impress. It just is. Like the breath between words. The pause between heartbeats. The space between one thought and the next. That's where life hides. In the spaces we ignore. In the quiet moments we rush past. Maybe that's why we feel so tired. Because deep down, the soul doesn't feed on noise. It feeds on silence. And the more we forget that, the more empty we become, no matter how full our days seem. The truth is, silence isn't empty. It's full of everything that matters. It's full of answers we've been too busy to hear. It's full of healing we've been too afraid to accept. And it's waiting, patiently, quietly, for us to remember. So tonight, when the world grows quiet, when the lights dim and the screens fade to black, try not to reach for more sound. Try not to fill the space. Just sit, breathe, listen. Because somewhere in that stillness, beneath all the noise you've carried for so long, there's a small, steady voice, soft as the wind, ancient as the stars, whispering, "Welcome home." The gift of silence. There's something sacred that happens when the noise fades. When you no longer rush to fill the air, and the world finally gives you space to hear your own heartbeat. That's where silence begins, not as an absence, but as a presence, soft and alive. Silence isn't empty. It's a language, ancient, gentle, and often misunderstood. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in awareness. In the rustle of leaves that sound like a forgotten prayer. In the rhythm of your breath. When it finally remembers how to slow down. Most people think silence is nothing. But the truth is, it's everything we've been missing. In silence, the soul unfolds. In silence, the mind stops chasing itself. In silence, life begins to speak again, clearly, truthfully, lovingly. There's a reason the ocean calms us. There's a reason we feel peace in the mountains. Or standing beneath the stars where no words exist. Because in those moments, silence holds us like the arms of something eternal. Something that doesn't need to prove or explain. It just is. Silence is not about running away from the world. It's about returning to it. Without the noise, without the masks, without the rush. It's about meeting life as it truly is. And meeting yourself within it. When you sit in silence long enough, you start to hear things you didn't know were missing. The sound of your own truth. The wisdom hiding beneath your thoughts. The quiet voice that's been waiting for you to listen. At first, silence can feel uncomfortable. It can even hurt, because it reflects everything we've been avoiding. The wounds, the emptiness, the unspoken grief. But if you stay, if you simply breathe and allow it to hold you, you begin to see that silence isn't here to judge you. It's here to heal you. It doesn't demand that you fix yourself. It doesn't ask you to be more or less. It just offers presence. And in that presence, something begins to soften. Maybe that's the real beauty of silence. It teaches us to stop performing. It teaches us that we don't need to always do. We only need to be. It reminds us that peace isn't something to find, but something that has always been there, quietly waiting beneath the noise. Think of silence as a friend you've forgotten. It has been walking beside you your whole life. In the pauses between your words. In the stillness of the night. In the space between one breath and the next. It never left. It just waited for you to notice. When you begin to spend time with silence, you'll notice how your senses sharpen. Colors grow deeper. Sounds grow softer. You begin to see things as if for the first time. The way light rests on a leaf. The texture of air at dawn. The way your chest rises and falls like a gentle tide. And in those small awakenings, you realize, this is what it means to be alive. Not in the rush, not in the noise, but in the awareness of the simplest things. Silence teaches gratitude. It teaches humility. It teaches you to listen, not just to others, but to life itself. Because life has always been speaking. You just needed to quiet down enough to hear it. When the noise of the world fades, you start to remember who you are. Not your roles, not your achievements, but the quiet being underneath it all. The one who watches, feels, and simply exists. And maybe that's why silence feels like coming home. Because it brings you back to yourself. To the part of you untouched by chaos. Untouched by time. So tonight, when everything slows, turn off the music. Put away the phone. Let the quiet settle like mist around your heart. Listen to the hum beneath the world. You don't have to name it. You don't have to understand it. Just let it be. Because the truth is, silence isn't the absence of life. It's the essence of it. It's the space where love breathes. Where truth whispers. Where peace begins. And once you've touched that silence, truly touched it, you'll start to see it everywhere. In the pauses between conversations. In the softness of a friend's eyes. In the hush that follows laughter. Silence is not something to escape into. It's something to carry with you. A quiet sanctuary that walks beside you. Through every noise, every storm, every day. Because when you learn to listen, you'll realize the silence was never outside of you. It was within you all along. The lessons silence teaches. Silence is not empty. It is a teacher. But unlike the teachers we've known, it doesn't use words. It doesn't explain. It simply holds a mirror to your soul. And in that still reflection, you begin to see truth. When you sit long enough with silence, it starts to shape you. not by adding more, but by gently taking things away. The need to impress, the urge to compare, the fear of being unseen. All of it begins to fade, like fog lifting from a quiet morning field. Silence teaches patience. It whispers, "Not everything needs to be known right now." It reminds you that growth is not loud. It happens slowly, secretly, in the unseen soil of your being. It teaches humility, the kind that comes from realizing how small we are beside the stars, and yet, how sacred it is just to exist among them. In silence, you learn that not every thought deserves your attention. Not every emotion needs a reaction. You begin to see how much energy is wasted in fighting what already is. And you start to understand. Peace is not something you earn. It's something you allow. Silence teaches you to listen differently. Not just to the sound of birds or wind, but to the subtle rhythm of life moving through everything. You hear the quiet intelligence behind creation. How flowers bloom without hurry. How rivers find their path without force. How the heart keeps beating even when you forget to notice. It's strange, isn't it? How much wisdom hides in what doesn't speak. How much love lives in what doesn't shout. The more time you spend in silence, the more it changes how you move through the world. You stop needing to fill every space with sound. You start to value pauses. In speech, in relationships, in thought. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to see people not as noise, but as stories still unfolding. And slowly, almost without realizing, you become softer. Not weak, but soft in the way rivers are soft. Flowing, flexible, alive. Soft in the way light touches water. Soft in the way truth no longer frightens you. Because silence teaches courage too. It takes courage to face yourself, to sit in the stillness, and not run from what you find there. But when you do, you realize that what you feared most was never silence itself. It was your own reflection within it. And once you stop running, you begin to heal. Silence heals not by doing, but by holding. It holds your grief until it no longer needs to scream. It holds your confusion until it dissolves into clarity. It holds your heart until you remember it was whole all along. And that is the quiet magic of silence. It doesn't change the world around you. It changes the world within you. And that's where all true change begins. The return to silence. There comes a moment in every journey when you stop searching, when the questions no longer demand answers, and the heart no longer races to be understood. That moment is the moment you return to silence. Not the silence of retreat, but the silence of being. A silence so full, so alive, that it feels like love itself. You realize that silence was never separate from you. It was never something to chase. It was always here, beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the layers of who you thought you had to be. And when you touch that truth, the world changes. Not because it becomes quieter, but because you do. The noise no longer controls you. The chaos no longer defines you. You carry the stillness within you, like a secret sanctuary that no one can take away. You start to move through life differently. You speak slower. You listen deeper. You find beauty in pauses, in empty rooms, in the simple act of breathing. You stop trying to fill every silence with meaning, because you've learned that silence is meaning. It is life, unspoken. It is love, without words. It is truth, too deep for sound. And suddenly, everything feels lighter. The things that once made you anxious begin to soften. The fears that used to chase you begin to dissolve in the quiet light of awareness. Because when the mind grows still, the heart finally has room to breathe. You see, silence doesn't take you away from life. It brings you closer to it. Closer to the sacred pulse behind every moment. Closer to the divine rhythm that has been guiding you all along. And maybe that's the final lesson of silence. That peace was never somewhere out there. It was inside you, waiting patiently for you to remember the way home. So if you're listening now, if you've walked with me through these echoes of quiet, take this with you. The world will always be loud. The noise will always try to find you. But inside you, there will always be a place untouched. A still, gentle garden of presence, where everything just is. Return there often. When life becomes too heavy. When your heart feels tired. When you forget what matters. Return, sit, breathe, listen. Because in the end, it is not the noise that defines you. It is the silence you carry. And in that silence, you will find yourself again.